Man. All right, so what the Minneapolis protesters got right, or we might call this good protest, bad protest, I don't know. I'm sorry about another talking video. I've done so many talking videos lately, and no action. God, I really want to do some action, but big things are afoot. Big things are afoot. And you've all been paying attention. Minneapolis, it happened in Atlanta. There's been some riots somewhere else. A bunch of black people got killed recently. I'm always interested. I don't want to get off on a sidetrack. That's a rabbit trail, but we'll go down it for just a minute. I'm always interested when people get up in arms, because this happens all the time, and then just periodically that people start paying attention. I will go to my grave angry at the civil rights movement for not getting up in arms about Philando Castile when he got shot. They ignored that for whatever reason. I don't know why. So I never take them too seriously, to be honest with you. But this George Floyd thing, we all saw the video, it was awful. And the protests started, and they got something right. And you're not going to believe what I think they got right. Everything else they got wrong. Now, I'm talking about these violent protesters. But they got, and you know what? We're going to have a quick word for black men, too, at the end of this. Black men, stick around. What did they get right? They burned down the police station. That was right. That was the right thing to do. What? What? Now, I'm a recovering law and order Republican, and I still vote Republican, but I don't consider myself a Republican, and I am no longer law and order Republican. The older I get, the closer I get to an anarchism. I think a lot of men make that transition. We're young men, we'll start out law and order types, and by the time we get to the end of our lives, and I'm not there quite yet, but I'm moving in that direction, we start realizing, C.S. Lewis, I wish I'd looked up the C.S. Lewis quote before I came out here. He said something about it too. You know, as he got older, he believed more in an anarchy than any other system of government. Anarchism as a system of government, not as a state of being. But excuse me one second. He said something about, most men aren't. There's not 1 in a million men who's fit to lead other men. Anyway, not here or there. But as a recovering law and order Republican, it amuses the hell out of me that I approve wholeheartedly of the burning of that police station. Wholehearted. Now, everything else they've done has been wrong and stupid. Looting Target, burning down Target. Target had nothing to do with this. Target's a bunch of, neoliberal morons anyway. AutoZone, they burned an AutoZone. They burned a low-income housing project. What else? They burned off a bunch of stuff. CVS, looted, burned. You got the pictures of, looks like Black Friday, looks like a fire broke out at a Black Friday sale. And it's pretty disgusting. And all of that stuff, that's just banditry. That's just looting. It's just banditry. It's got nothing to do with this protest. But the burning down of the police station was 100% legitimate. And hear me out here now. What that cop did to Derek Chauvin, I think was his name. Interesting name, by the way. Chauvin was the name of a Frenchman. I believe he was like a sergeant in the army or something, but it's where the word chauvinist comes from, a guy named Chauvin. So it's kind of a little ironic. And it wasn't that long ago. It was only it was like in the late 1800s that word chauvinist came from that last name Chauvin, from some Frenchman who did something. I wish I need to look that up, because there is an irony here of Chauvin killing a black man by kneeling on his neck. Anyway, neither here nor there. What he did was awful. That was terrible. And now they're saying maybe he didn't directly kill the guy, but it doesn't matter. That guy wouldn't have died if he hadn't been leaning on, George Floyd wouldn't have died if he hadn't been leaning on his neck. That's oppression by a government entity. Well, look, if you're watching this channel, you probably believe in the militia, and you're all about 1776. And what was 1776, and what's the militia about? Well, it's about overthrowing oppressive government. In that moment, when that police officer, Derek Chauvin, was leaning on that guy's neck, that was oppressive government, murderously oppressive government. And that police officer was a direct representative from that police department. Like, literally, that's where he came from. That was his base of operations. It was perfectly legitimate for those people, with some caveats here. But if those people in that neighborhood decided to overthrow that oppressive government entity with the use of force, well, men and women, boys and girls, that's exactly what George Washington did in 1776. There is no difference. If it was those people from that neighborhood or that area or really anybody. It doesn't necessarily have to be. It's a little more pure, a little easier to defend if there are those people from that area. But that was an oppressive government entity, oppressive government, and they overthrew it by force of arms. 100% within their right. That is what the militia is all about. When we talk about the militia, when we talk about 1776 and Concord and Lexington, and watering the tree of liberty, these people did that, and it was 100% legitimate in my opinion. They 100% right. Now all the other looting, and we're hearing some stuff that maybe a lot of these people, a lot of these hardcore rioters aren't really from around these areas. They've been shipped in. There's some sort of Antifa weirdness going on, supposedly. I don't know. I don't care. For our purposes, it doesn't matter. The end result is the same. But burning the police station was 100% justified, completely legitimate, in my opinion. It wasn't violence. It was fighting against tyranny. I guess it was violence, but it was justified violence. It was. I wouldn't go so far as to say self-defense, because in that moment, the police station wasn't endangering anyone's lives. But ultimately, you could say it was self-defense. Yeah, ultimately. But there was a direct assault against tyranny, against oppression. 100% legitimate. That police station should have been burned down, to be honest with you. I am proud of these people for standing up that way. Now, all this other stupidity, burning down housing projects, looting stores, that's horseshit. Now, that's got nothing to do. And if it's connected, then those stupid actions taint this righteous action that happened. But I haven't thought about that in my mind. I would say it was righteous. It was righteous. Yeah, I'll reel that back in, because sometimes that has political, religious connotations. It was right. It was a state of being right. It was rightness to burn down that police station. Now, black men, listen to me. If you stuck by and I haven't angered you yet, listen to me. Look at me. Look at me and listen to me. The world out there is going to tell you I'm your enemy. They're going to tell you I hate you, that I'm the one you have to guard against. Van Jones just said something really interesting, and y'all should think about it. I would not consider myself a racist. I just don't. I know other people probably would. There's people out there that think if you oppose socialized medicine, you're a racist. I'm willing to let you have whatever you can get as far as earn. I don't want to take what's yours. I wouldn't mind if a black man dated my daughter. The right black man, same as the white man, though. There would be no different standard there. There's a high standard, but it's the same standard. That being said, let's go with something positive. You know what? I have something to teach you. Men like me have something to teach you. And you have something to teach us, by the way. They've been coming after you since the 30s, at least. The neoliberals, they. Now, not the crazy racist they. Those people have been coming after you for a long time, but they're not really that effective. And they're not really that interested in you. Their main goal is to not have to deal with you at all, to you be over there and them be over here, and area the tween shall meet. And if they can stay away from you, they're fine with that, and they don't want to have anything else to do with you. The neoliberals have been after you since at least Margaret Sanger. And if you don't know who Margaret Sanger is, you don't know the truth about Margaret Sanger and what she thought about black men, then you have ingested the bill of goods that they are using to destroy you. Now they're coming after us now. Now they're after the white men, and the exact same things they've done to you, the marginalization and the criminalization, they're doing it to us now. And you know what? We owe you an apology for standing aside and letting it happen to you all this time. And now suddenly it's happening to us, and we're like, oh no! What do we do now? We didn't notice it was happening to you. Now it's us, and we notice. Okay, so here, that's background for what I'm about to say. There was another quote I meant to look up. There was a black activist in the 30s. I think it was a woman, actually. And what she said was the most important tool for freedom for black people was the Winchester repeating rifle, which at the time was probably close to true. There would have been a better choice. That's a gun debate. We don't want to talk about that. Well, really what she was saying was she was talking about African Americans adopting a militia type culture, a militia attitude. For my culture, that's very natural to us. That was the basis of our culture, foundation of our culture. All the way up until 1916, we were a militia society. It is now time for you to become a militia society. And I know that sounds, you've always equated us, the militia, as your enemies, but you know what? We're not. The militia is actually probably your best friend, simply because we believe in decentralized authority. And what's been killing black people, but black men, certainly since they got here, whatever it was, 1630 or whatever, I can't remember what year it was, the first, it's been government. Every step of the way, it's been centralized government. Slavery was condoned by the government, okay? Jim Crow was done by the government. All those black men that were injected with syphilis back in Alabama, whenever that was the government program. Every step of the way, your oppression has been facilitated by the government and a strong central authority. A militia society is decentralized. That's why it's its greatest weakness and its greatest strength. A decentralized society is susceptible to an invasion by a well-organized force, but a decentralized militia society isn't strong enough to go around oppressing other people. It's a very localized concern. And I want to invite all of you black men. A few years ago during the Stacey Abrams, Brian Kemp governor's race, there were these 5 black men on the side of the road down there in Atlanta somewhere, and they were in some kind of black uniform with berets, and they were all armed with long guns. And you know what? I saw that, and at the time I went, this is great. This is great. That's a militia. You know what? Militias are always good. Militias are always good. They are always at least less bad. Now, in bad societies, everything's bad. And a militia in a bad society is going to be bad, but bad things are going on anyway. And for that militia, and for that area, that militia makes things less bad than they already are. In a Christian nation, which we are not anymore, but there are still vestiges of it, militias are always good. I humbly invite my black brothers, if I can say that, I probably can't, my black neighbors, join the militia movement. Don't join our militias. I'm not asking. I would love it. I would love it if you came and joined our militias. I think we would be much stronger. But what I am asking you to do is form your own militias. Don't let the Black Panther stuff, don't be defensive about it. There was nothing wrong with the defensive-minded, that was a militia. I love the militia. It's always good. If you are organized, if you are strong, if you are armed, you will always be safer. All right? You will always be safer. Please stop thinking of the militia as your enemy. The vast majority of us don't have a racist bone in our body, at least from a traditional definition of the word. Now, they define it so many different ways these days. You know, everyone's racist. And you know what? A lot of people are. Van Jones was right about those white women, those white liberals. Them women, they're awful. Anyway, there you go. So that's my word. That's my word for the black men. Start a militia. Join our militia. We'd love to have you. Most militias. I mean, I'm sure there's racist militias out there. I'm not saying we're any better than anybody else. We have our racists like everyone else does. But I wouldn't be involved in that kind of group. I wouldn't be involved in a group that refused to have a black man involved. I mean, you know, a man who's black might get excluded the way a man who's white might get excluded for the same things. But, you know, if someone meets the criteria of that militia, should be allowed in. And I think most militias would allow you in. You would find that most militias would be very, very welcoming because they want to send that message that, hey, we're not the Ku Klux Klan, we're not White Aryan Brotherhood or whatever these morons are out there. But if you want to be safe, start a militia. That's men taking responsibility for the safety and security of their family and their communities. That's the only way to secure your family and your community. You have to do it. That means you have to be armed. It means you have to be organized. It means you have to be trained. It means you got to have, well, anyway, I mean, you know, you got to be willing to take some risks. And the militia movement, I believe, is what because listen, I'll say this on the way out. African Americans, the descendants of slaves now, not just any American who came from Africa, because there's a lot of African Americans who came after slavery. They're not the descendants of slaves. Barack Obama was not a descendant of a slave. The descendants of the slaves are on the verge of extinction. You've got about 80 years left, 85 years. The numbers don't lie. Long before the whites die out, the descendants of the slaves are already going to be dead. I believe this was in the 90s. No, it had been the early 2000s when Pat Buchanan wrote a book. He did this analysis of all these demographic numbers, and with 100 years from that point, the descendants of slaves were going to be a statistical anomaly in the United States. They would not be something you would even run across. Your culture is on the way, is on death's door. You are dying. You're dying faster than fat white people are dying. And the only way to save yourself is to get armed, to get organized, to join a militia, to become a militia. I'm not scared of that. I'm not scared of that at all. I think that'd be a great thing. And I beg you to do it. Men, black men too, we appreciate you. Thank you.